While it goes without saying that some of 2026's biggest and most anticipated video games include Grand Theft Auto 6, Resident Evil Requiem, Crimson Desert, 007 First Light, and Fable, to just name a few, what about those games that'll end up sneaking up on us, all largely out of nowhere? I'm Josh from WhatCulture Gaming, and these are 20 upcoming video games that could be surprise hits. First up, Big Walk. Developer House, the team behind 2019's viral indie hit Untitled Goose Game, is back with their long-awaited next game, Big Walk, which could very well be 2026's big co-op hit. Up to 4 players can team up to traverse the game's vibrant open-world bushland environment, solving puzzles in order to progress, with communication being key. Though Big Walk has proximity chat, you'll often be separated enough from your cohort that you'll need to rely on gestures and codes in order to get your message across. House has emphasized that the experience is a casual one designed entirely around hanging out with friends and forging a joint path forward, which sounds like a perfect antidote to the avalanche of cinematic AAA releases that we'll all surely play and enjoy next year. All that said, don't be too shocked if Big Walk basically becomes next year's Peak, a sly word-of-mouth co-op hit that millions won't be able to stop playing with their pals. Next up, Reanimal. If you were disappointed that Little Nightmares developer Tarsier Studios didn't return for the disappointing recent third entry into the series, well, rest easy, because they have been busy cooking up their own fantastic-looking spiritual successor. Reanimal is undeniably cut from the same cloth as Little Nightmares, similarly operating as a horror adventure game in which 2 pint-sized characters, this time a brother and a sister, fight to survive in an uncanny land packed with grotesque terrors. Tarsier's new game, however, looks more ambitiously sprawling and, dare one say, cinematic than any of the studio's previous work, with the more dynamic camera system, slivers of spoken dialogue, and unlike their 2 Little Nightmares games, it will also feature optional co-op play. The currently available demo suggests that Reanimal just might be the most gorgeous and atmospheric game that the developers have produced to date, so don't be surprised if it successfully supersedes the franchise that they originally created. Next up, Felt That Boxing. Perhaps the most brilliantly unexpected new game announced at this year's Summer Game Fest, Felt That Boxing is a comedic boxing game which filters the typical underdog sports story through the charming vein of puppetry. The first impression given off by the game's reveal trailer is just how mind-bogglingly photorealistic the furry characters are. It all completely passes the sniff test as a live-action Muppet show, and yet, what you're watching is indeed a video game. It's also clearly hilarious, with a thoroughly tongue-in-cheek plot, which revolves around Ezra Fuzzy Wright, an orphan who dons a pair of sparring gloves in order to save his puppet orphanage from demolition, because of course. We still don't know a whole lot about the game, but if its eye-popping, gut-busting first impression is any indication, this could be a major breath of fresh air in the sports genre, a rare offering that can't ever be accused of taking itself one iota too seriously. Next up, Long Gone. Long Gone takes place decades into a zombie apocalypse, where as a survivor, players attempt to, well, keep surviving and avoid becoming zombie chow. In this linear, story-driven adventure, you'll explore a decaying neighborhood and learn the stories of those who used to live there. And on top of this, here's an especially fun hook. Despite the regular presence of zombies, there's absolutely no combat to speak of. The undead are instead presented as a puzzle to be navigated by manipulating the environment rather than engaging with them directly, while gameplay will swap between 2.5D platforming in the streets and 3D exploration inside buildings. It is a killer concept, and the retro-flavored visuals look absolutely fantastic, so there's plenty to be optimistic about here. It's also being released by Outersloth, the indie publishing arm created by Among Us devs Innersloth, which gives it quite the leg up where marketing and discoverability are concerned. So fingers crossed this one turns out well. Next up, Tides of Tomorrow. Road 96 developer Dench Attack is back with a decidedly more ambitious title, now with Tides of Tomorrow. At first glance, you might assume it to be a co-op action-adventure game, but Tides of Tomorrow actually rocks a bold asynchronous multiplayer hook as players attempt to survive on the gorgeous but seemingly doomed ocean planet of Island. Basically though, there's no direct interaction with other players throughout the game. Rather, a friend's actions in a previous run will have a direct impact on how the world is then presented to you. Perhaps they took more than their fare of resources, leaving behind less for you, or were clumsy enough in their navigation to cause security to tighten up. And so, of course, however you approach any given level will then cause a knock-on effect for your next friend to play, and so on and so on. It'll certainly be interesting then to see how deep and nuanced this gimmick is in reality, because if the developers can pull it off, it's easy to see Tides of Tomorrow becoming a huge hit with streamers. He is hoping anyway. Next up, Parasite Mutant. Long-starved fans of the cult RPG franchise Parasite Eve likely won't get an official new entry anytime soon, if ever. But this new game, heavily inspired by its style and tone, just might be the next best thing. Parasite Mutant is a survival horror RPG in which psionic agent Nova is sent to an abandoned island city where she does battle with the horrifying creatures lurking within. The game will feature an active time chain battle system, not unlike Parasite Eve's famed active time bar system, while the vibrant anime-spiced visuals will come with retro and CRT filters to further enhance the throwback feel. While Parasite Mutant has one hell of a legacy to live up to, if it's anywhere near as good as it looks, it could very well cause a resurgence in popularity of the original franchise. That is to say, if Parasite Mutant is a hit, maybe Square Enix might finally revive Parasite Eve for real. Next up, Mouse PI for Hire. It's honestly surprising that Cuphead didn't spawn a glut of video games similarly styled after 1930s cartoons. But it also goes without saying that such a distinctive hand-drawn style must take a hell of a lot of work to realize. Yet, Mouse PI for Hire will lend a similar aesthetic to a totally different genre, this of course being a first-person shooter. Players are put into the shoes of Mouse PI Jack Pepper, voiced of course by Troy Baker, who finds himself ensnared in a web of corruption throughout Mouseburg while investigating a missing persons case. Beyond its incredible rubber hose cartoon art style, the game will also feature cartoon-inspired weaponry, such as a turpentine gun which can instantly melt enemies. Couple this with a big band jazz soundtrack, and it looks like developer Fumi Games has found a fortuitous fusion of classic cartoon style, tongue-in-cheek film noir tone, and inventive FPS gameplay. Next up, End of Abyss. End of Abyss is a new horror action game from Section 9 Interactive, a team comprised of veterans from Little Nightmares developer Tarsier Studios, a fact which won't surprise many who look at this game for more than a few seconds. As young combat technicians Cell, players will be sent into the bowels of a strange underground compound, where they'll come face to face with the monsters that roam the facility. In terms of its skin-crawlingly gross creature design and all-around eerie vibes, this has Tarzier's DNA all over it. But it's also clear that End of Abyss is very much its own beast, with a greater emphasis on combat, effectively styled as a twin-stick shooter. Further distinguishing it from Little Nightmares, you'll be able to upgrade weapons and navigate branching paths, ensuring there's a healthy dash of Metroidvania in the mix as well. Next up, Dusk Fade. 2000s nostalgia is all the rage right now, so it's fitting that new 3D action platformer Dusk Fade will be paying clear homage to some of the finest genre offerings from the PS2 era, namely Jak and Daxter and Ratchet and Clank. As plucky protagonist Zirian, players must restore the fabric of time and rescue their sister from a strange clock tower which has plunged the land into never-ending night. Though nostalgia can often be used as a lazy crutch to merely reheat old successes without bringing anything new to the table, Dusk Fade sure looks like it isn't resting on its laurels, offering instead a vibrant, diverse world to navigate alongside snappy, responsive platforming and combat gameplay. Given the scale scarcity of generally memorable 3D action platformers in recent years, Dusk Fade can only land on our laps too soon, and perhaps it could even signal the start of a franchise. Again, fingers, toes, everything crossed. Next up, Grave Seasons. Who among us doesn't love an inspired genre mashup? Grave Seasons may superficially resemble a pretty damn typical farming sim, but here's the twist. Somewhere in the cozy town of Ashen Ridge happens to be a supernatural serial killer. And so, beyond interacting with the locals while tending to your homestead, you'll also need to investigate the growing pile of bodies in the town and deduce who is responsible. Farming and crafting will of course play a direct role in helping you follow the killer's trail, and completing tasks for the townsfolk will additionally help you gain their much needed trust. Considering the farming sim is an arguably wildly oversaturated genre at this point in time, colliding it with a murder mystery is an intensely exciting prospect, and one which will undeniably help Grave Seasons stand out from the pack. If it can weave a compelling mystery and deliver some genuinely spooky scares for the horror crowd, this could be quite brilliant. Next up, Militia. Every year, there are a handful of games which shift a ton of units through the sheer virtue of being really, really weird, and in 2026, Militia will probably be one of them. That isn't to undersell its actual gameplay, but this mesmerizing immersive sim from Russian developer Tallboys has the irresistible premise of its big bad being a giant skyscraper-sized policeman. Players control a resident of a remote Russian settlement presided over by said giant cop, and must attempt to escape the town before going on trial for an unspecified crime. Militia is designed to be extremely reactive, giving players innumerable ways to escape and evade the policeman's grasp, including flattery, bribery, and even romance. That is to say, the game clearly isn't taking itself too seriously, yet boasts such a wonderfully bizarre gameplay hook that it seems destined to become an out-of-nowhere hit with streamers. Next up, Into the Unwell. Mouse PI for Hire isn't the only Cuphead-spiced game due to release next year. There's also the cartoony action roguelike Into the Unwell. Either solo or with up to 2 friends, you take control of a misfit who attempts to battle their way through the grim Unwell, a nightmarish land populated with surreal sights and even stranger enemies. The cartoonish art style is accentuated by an immediately attention-grabbing level of animated slapstick during combat, and to further sweeten the deal, the game's arsenal of weaponry includes, get this, giant ice creams and lobotomized lollipops. In the roguelike tradition, you'll be unlocking new characters and upgrades throughout the game, helping you become ever more prepared to take down tricky bosses. Roguelikes are another genre that's just wildly overpopulated in this day and age, so any game that tries to do something different with the genre's well-trod formula is certainly most welcome. Next up, Drywall Eating Simulator. Seemingly proving there's life left in the simulator parody subgenre yet, Drywall Eating Simulator is a comedic adventure game about, and we quote, eating drywall as a result of interacting with society. This physics-based romp sees the player explore multiple environments while trying to maintain their composure when dealing with folk, and as a release from the stress of this general chit-chat, being compelled to munch on drywall. I mean, sure, we've all been there, right? It's obviously a game that won't be for everyone, but if it can deliver a witty workplace satire while making its titular drywall gobbling mechanically satisfying, then this could easily be one of 2026's best-selling joke games. Next up, Cairn. Climbing games have been soaring in popularity as of late, and the latest is Cairn, a survival climber from Fury and Haven developers, The Game Bakers. As a pro climber, you're tasked with summiting the treacherous, never-before-climbed Mount Kami, and while the game features nothing in the way of traditional combat, the mountain itself has been likened to a colossal game-long boss fight. Players will be given the option to figure out how to climb Mount Kami however they like, and far from a casual experience, you'll need to dig deep into the minutiae of hand and foot placement, posture, and balance, while managing resources like chalk and pitons. Pitons? I don't climb. Pitons? 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 Someone clarify it for me in the comments, please. Now, as infuriating as that might sound to some, the developers have also made it clear that Cairn will feature adjustable difficulty settings, because this isn't some one-size-fits-all exercise in chastising the player, but rather an attempt to create an authentic and richly atmospheric representation of real-life climbing. Next up, Infinite Simuls. Infinite Simuls' mashup of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids and Halo is pretty much irresistible. Players will take control of an elite alien soldier, Captain Orkney Rellenrake, who just so happens to be the size of an insect, as he manages a treacherous world filled with mechanical sentinels and oversized creatures while searching for his missing team. While your small stature seemingly puts you at a huge disadvantage, you'll be able to shoot at enemies both on the ground and in the air via a jetpack, and as we all know, every game is better with a jetpack, while navigating the terrain with a combat vehicle. The game has been in some stage of development since 2013, evolving from a cinematic platformer into a quasi-open world third-person shooter. And while you might assume that something with this concept would have to launch with a multiplayer suite, it's somewhat refreshingly releasing as a purely narrative-driven single-player game. Its left-field interpretation of a well-trod genre could still drive it to unexpected success. Next up, Am Nema. Few genres can capture the mind share of streamers quite like horror, and so there's a strong chance that Am Nema becomes one of 2026's big breakout internet horror hits. A psychological horror point-and-click game with a disturbing twist, you play as Nema, a child who is trapped in a basement by her mother and must pass a series of tests in order to convince her mother that she really is her daughter. While navigating Nema's fractured mind, you must examine the objects around you to uncover words which will allow you to then form thoughts and then have conversations with your mother, which may or may not lead to your escape. It's a devilishly unique concept, and one that seems quite abundantly supported by its persistently ominous vibes. Next up, Sea of Remnants. This seafaring, pirate-themed RPG revolves around an amnesiac sailor who sets off on a grand adventure to try and recover everything they've lost. You'll recruit your own crew, build a ship, and get ready for battle, taking on rival factions and perhaps even amassing some riches along the way. This open-world adventure splits itself between the expansive ocean and the bustling pirate city of Orbtopia. And while comparisons to Sea of Thieves are absolutely inevitable, it also distinguishes itself in some key ways. For one, its emphasis on turn-based combat and striking visual style, including its UI design, have actually been compared by some to the Persona franchise. Of course, there are certainly reasons to be skeptical of a NetEase-produced pirate free-to-play MMO, namely with how the microtransactions will ultimately be implemented, but this could very well be a strange and compelling enough exercise to rise to the top of the free-to-play pack next year. Next up, Dench Attack. There's truly no game releasing in 2026 that looks quite like Dench Attack. Perhaps best described as the dazzling bastard child of Jet Set Radio, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, and Isle of Katamari, Dench Attack allows you to take control of a gravity-defying train and then skate your way across Japan while trying to take down these sinister corporations. In addition to the more typical skating gameplay, a term that we scarcely feel comfortable using around this very atypical game, you'll also be able to take on bosses, some of which include, in the developer's own words, mecha magical girls, moving castles, and a mechanical worm. The result is a game that looks familiar and different at the same time, obviously taking cues from the aforementioned titles, while also rolling them together into something that feels wholly distinct. And if this thing is even a fraction as good as it looks, it deserves to be one of 2026's big indie sleeper hits. Next up, Animal Use Protocol. Animal Use Protocol is a story-driven survival horror game in which players control Pen, a super smart talking chimp who is being relentlessly hunted down by a monstrous experiment gone wrong, and must use his brains to escape Anchorage Station in one piece. From the Brotherhood, the team behind Stasis and sequel Status Bone Totem, this atmospheric FPS gives you a few tools to even the odds. A gravity manipulation device not unlike Half-Life's gravity gun, and an adorable rat companion named Trip who communicates through some slung together gadgetry. From what we've seen so far, the vibes are so thick that you can practically choke on them, but this is a gorgeously grotty looking game, and the design of the chimera-like abomination chasing you down is worthy of the finest in cinematic body horror. The switch from isometric point and click to first person action could have so easily gone horribly wrong for the developers, but everything that we've seen so far suggests a home run. And finally, Love Eternal. A horror platformer in the vein of Super Meat Boy and Celeste, Love Eternal casts players as Maya, a child stolen from her family by a lonely deity who races to escape a seemingly never-ending labyrinth of death traps. The gameplay will look familiar enough to fans of the aforementioned precision platformers, though the actual art direction is quite distinct, with trippy visuals intended to confuse you while accompanied by eerie ambient music primed to leave your hairs standing on end. The developers have promised that Love Eternal will be challenging, but offer responsive controls and a unique experimental narrative quite unlike anything else in the genre right now. The trailer alone is enough to leave you seriously creeped out, and if this game catches on with speedrunners, it'll surely become one of the most played and replayed indie platformers of next year. So, that's our list. Are there any upcoming games that look promising that I've missed off here? Let me know in the comments, and if you want more videos like this, click on the screen right now or head over to WhatCulture Gaming for more good stuff.